Hi, everybody. I'm Ginny Schuster with Zoom In with Ginny Panur series. Today, I'm really excited to have Carl Mesecher, and he is with the World Music Charts. Now, I got introduced to him by Daniel Rousseau, and it's all about the connections that you have. So today, Carl is going to talk to us about music charts, how he got the name, and he's been doing it for quite a while. He's going to give us some of his story, and then he's going to talk a little bit about some of the artists that he talks with and connects with. So this is going to be really exciting. I want to hear his side of music. So thank you for being with us. Please subscribe and like and comment. Morning, Carl. Nice to have you here. I am so excited to have you on do this interview. And I want our viewers to know that I met Carl through a mutual friend of ours. And I just love these connections that you have of people introducing you to unusual people who have unusual businesses. And it piqued my interest because the name of your business is the World Music Charts. Hi, Carl.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, let's jump in, Carl. I'm really excited about this. Get started because I can see the passion you have for music. And I think you just lit a fire for me because you reminded me as I was going through your website how much I love music.
Yeah, so I was born in Peoria, Illinois. My parents grew up in that area, and my dad actually worked on the railroad and didn't go to church as a kid, but married my mom and ended up going to college in Eureka College, where Ronald Reagan went. And I was born then while he was in college. And then after college, he went to seminary in Dubuque, Iowa. So I was already a kid. So we moved when I was about a year old from Illinois. And then he went to seminary there and became a pastor. And so that's kind of what had our family going to a couple different towns and as different calls to churches. And so his first call was in South Central Nebraska, and I still have relatives, mom and sister still live in that area.
Nice.
And I went to elementary school there. And it was during that time, so that would have been in the 1970s, that to me, I was introduced to music, not music history or music charts, but music. So listening to music in my parents' car on the radio, and my parents had some albums, and that was my introduction. And my older sister had 45s that I would listen to as well. So, and I can very much remember a few 45s, even to this day, that I remember playing on a little record player of her records as well. So I remember Joy to the World by Three Dog Night, I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles. Those were two that definitely still stick in my memory of playing on this
No, I
little
remember
record
those.
player. So, and then definitely taking family vacations and listening to the radio and the current songs of that time in the 70s definitely sparked my interest in listening to music at that stage.
I'm kind of curious, Carl, was since your dad was a pastor, was he okay with listening to that rock and roll? Because I know my parents were into the old bandstand type stuff, and they just thought we were going to be ruined with the Beatles and the hip hop stuff that we were listening to.
I'd say he was okay with listening to it, and I think enjoyed some of it. I would say my mom even had a more interest in music than my dad, is probably where it came from. But they were both in the car, obviously, and the radio was on. So I can definitely even still remember listening to certain songs in the 70s, like Afternoon Delight by the Starland Vocal Band, and Convoy by C.W. McCall, who actually has some Colorado roots. And then right prior to middle school, my dad took a call at a church in Eastern Colorado and Burlington, Colorado. And so I went to middle school and high school there and graduated from high school there. During that time is when I became interested in the charts. So I had a friend that worked at the local radio station in the evenings, and I would go out there sometimes and read Billboard magazine. And so I started getting hooked on the charts. I bought my first chart books from a company out of Wisconsin back in the 80s. That company's been around since 1970. And so I'd gotten my first couple chart books back then in high school as well. And then I also wrote for the high school newspaper. And so I started writing things about music and music charts and Grammys and stuff back then. I still have all those articles to this day. I've kept them. And by my senior year, I actually had talked my teacher into having an entertainment section that year too, to include and have other writers write for that section too. But I would have stuff that involved charts or Grammys or concerts and whatnot.
Oh, how fun. Oh my
So,
goodness.
so then it definitely elevated at that time. And then I went to college at the University of Nebraska as a broadcasting major.
Oh,
And I was the music director for 3 years for the campus radio station. And even during part of that time, I had a countdown show on that radio station. And we used the trade publication Radio and Records, which no longer exist. That's what we kind of use as our guideline to help with our playlist then. And so I would count down the top 10 songs in Radio Records and every week. And I would also call a few different radio or record stores, they existed then, in the Lincoln area. And I would get their top 10 album sales every week and compile the record stores and have my own Lincoln top 10 countdown as part of my show.
wow.
That was the second hour for the radio, for the records, top 10 records in Lincoln.
Oh man. So, and you had to do it manually, basically, right?
Oh yeah. So when I called them, I put a reel to reel. There was reel to reel tapes back then. I would put those on the recorder, make my phone call, and record the conversation because I couldn't write down the list quick enough. And then I'd go back and listen to my list, and then I would do my compiling manually and everything as well to form the top 10 every week for that.
So on a radio show, when you're listing them, that means you would say, this is Carl and number 40, go from bottom to top.
Yeah, so I was called the KRNU Countdown Show, and I counted down the top 10 songs from Radio Records every week. So I started with 10 all the way to 1, and that was the first hour. And then the second half would have been the top 10 albums in Lincoln, and I started from 10 to 1 each week. And I would throw some extras in there, like here was the #1 album in the country this week and play a song from that, or here was the #1 song this week in the country and play a song from that too as part of my show. So the other thing that influenced me in growing up was listening to Casey Kasem American Top 40 and on the KNAB in Burlington as well, that radio station, while I was in high school. And so I kind of had my own countdown show, which was fun.
Very special. Yeah.
So that took me to the mid to late 80s there. And then I would say I kind of followed the charts from there and looked at my chart books and whatnot throughout the years, but was less involved at that point. But throughout the years of my adult life, I've kind of had ideas in my head that I want to do some books, but I didn't really quite know the avenue to get there. And in 2020, it might have been even late 2019 is when that started coming into be. I found an avenue where I could get these published and distributed and do it on my terms at my pace and keep it fun. And that's what I want to do. And so they're available through Amazon. I use Kindle Direct Publishing right now as my avenue to do that. And there are other avenues out there to do this too, but that seems to be the biggest and largest. And that's the one I learned, and that's the one I had found out about and investigated and took off.
I've heard that.
There.
Yeah, Amazon is a good place for Kindle.
Yeah. But about, I don't know, probably 5 years ago, and this will show you what a music geek I guess I am, I made a spreadsheet, and I like playing with spreadsheets, of the year 1983. And what I did is just went through every week and put down what song was number one in Canada, United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. So that was kind of the first spreadsheet that I ever made to deal with my music books.
Interesting. Wow.
And all my books start with a spreadsheet, and I call these the mother of all spreadsheets. So
I'm going to have to see that.
the first book I wrote was every song that hit number one in the 1980s in those four charts: Canada, United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. And so I made a tab on my spreadsheet for every year and listed every song, and then how many weeks they were at number one on a particular chart or charts, the songwriter, the artist, obviously the year, and then what if they charted on those other charts, what was the peak position of those charts as well. So a song that might have hit number one in the United States might have hit number 20 in a different one of those other charts. I would make sure to document that on my spreadsheet as well. So that was during 2020 when I was writing that book. And because of certain situations that allowed me to work remotely and do things remotely, I was able to go hiking more that summer out here in Colorado. And I was hiking, I started dreaming. And so then the books became, okay, I can do this. Do I want to do more than this? And I started thinking about, well, maybe I have a website for this. So I have a landing spot for people to go to if they're interested in looking. I said, well, if I have this website, I think I want more than just a link to the books on this too. So I thought, well, I can, bring back this broadcasting career as well. And so I thought maybe I'll do a podcast, and I want to interview singers and songwriters that have some connection to the songs that are in my books so they can all kind of relate together. And as I do the podcast, I'm thinking, well, it's probably a big chore and expense to include music from a copyright standpoint. So I thought, well, here's a fun workaround. I'll just have a blog on my website, and I call it The Beat. And I can embed the music videos of songs that I'm talking about. And then, they're related to the books and the podcast as well. And you can see the videos of some of the things that are talked about. So it kind of brings it all together too. And there's my workaround to get the music incorporated. And I was able to do that through the website. So I have, the books I can get to, the podcast, and the videos of the blog, all from the website. The World Music Charts is the company, and the worldmusiccharts.com is the website.
Well, I noticed on your website, you do have many different countries that people can click on there. So that was fascinating to me. And then I brought up, Italy. I said, oh, well, I want to travel to Italy. Maybe I'll just click on that one. And it also will translate it into English for you if you want to take that route.
Right. So, yeah. I forgot to mention that on the website. There is a page that has links to current charts, pop music charts on many different, around 30 countries or so around the world. Yes.
Yeah. So that's fun for viewers to take a look at your website for that. And also your blog, you mentioned your books. Well, Carl, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. Do you have any last words? You want to tell people how they can connect with you, or once again, tell them your website?
Go to the website, theworldmusiccharts.com, and be happy to hear from anybody there. And we can, I'm continually kind of trying to tweak the website as well to make it user friendly and whatnot as well, make the contact and stuff too. But I'm with you. Something you said earlier. It's just, music inspires and motivates, and that, I think that's the great thing about music. I'm taking a little step further and trying to find out backstories and history and chart history and stuff, which I enjoy too.
So basically, it's the family tree DNA of rock stars.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, very much. In fact, I'll kind of say this too, with the Beatles book, it's going to have an additional chapter because I have the evolution of the Beatles written out in paragraph form as well, versus like a drawing of a family tree, but it brings that all in as well, how they from start to finish.
Oh, I'll look forward to that. Well, thank you, Carl. Really appreciate your time and this fun interview to hear about music and charts and where you're going with the company. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.